Well, I want him to preach the gospel. I'm all about the gospel. But I also know that you cannot let a certain country, which is a very mean-spirited country, have a nuclear weapon. If they did, they would use it, and I think they'd use it quickly, and they would kill many millions of people. So, you know, the Pope could disagree with me on that, but certainly we're allowed to have that. I'm all about the gospel. I'm about it as much as anybody can be, but I can't allow, as President of the United States of America, I can't allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And here's the story. They won't have. They've already agreed not to have. That's good news, and I think the Pope will be very happy.
The Federal Reserve should wait and see about this Iran war before lowering interest rates. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree. I think we should have lower interest rates.
Iran's going to execute 4 more protesters, reportedly, including the first woman protester. What do you tell Iran?
Well, tell that to the Pope. What did you say? Tell that to the Pope.
You want to patch things up with the Pope?
That Iran is going to... Did you just hear that? Iran is going to execute 4 people, including a woman?
Trump, the Lebanese love you so much. Would you visit Lebanon?
I don't know if we're going to have to, but if we need to, I would do that.
Wait, that's important. Sorry.
What are you telling the airlines and the oil companies about the way you're going to open up this trade?
So if you look at the oil and if you look at the price we're paying, it's about half what people thought it would be if you did what I had to do. We had to take this journey to the Middle East in order to get rid of a nuclear weapon. There would have been, if we didn't hit them with the B-2 bombers, or if I didn't kill the Barack Hussein-Obama deal, the nuclear deal, which was a disaster, we would have had nuclear weapons exploding in the Middle East and beyond. I believe I've been able to stop that. I think we have a very successful negotiation going on right now, and I think it'll be, if it happens, it'll be announced fairly soon, and that'll give us free oil, free Hormuz Strait, everything will be nice, and I think your oil price will go down to lower than what it was before. And I think a lot of good things will happen.
Just for clarity, you're willing to extend the ceasefire?
Well, we'll see. I don't know that we'll have to. Ideally, we'll, but if I needed to, I would.
The Lebanese people love you so much. What do you say? The Lebanese people love you so much. What's your message for them? And you will visit Lebanon after this deal?
I will do that. At the right time, I would certainly go there.
You think this war in Ukraine, Putin doesn't want to stop it apparently. He keeps bombing Ukraine. Do you think this war has the potential to go on for years more?
Well, it should have never started. If I were president, the war in Ukraine never would have started with Russia. But it's going on. Hopefully, it'll get over soon.
The First Lady came out last week and said she had no links to Jeffrey Epstein.
Who did?
The First Lady, Melania.
She had none.
Why did she come out and say that last week?
Because the fake news was saying she did, and she had none, and I think that's been proven. It bothered her that the fake news was being fake news. That's all. She just wanted to clarify.
Who's taking care of Hezbollah? Do you think that they are destroying the deal that you are trying to make?
We're going to see how it all works out, but they'll be working and coordinating. If you know Lebanon, right? So they'll be working with Hezbollah.
If they fire Jay Powell,
are you still interested in acquiring Iranian oil?
What?
Are you still interested in acquiring Iranian oil?
Well, we'll see. I mean, we have a very good relationship with Iran right now, as hard as it is to believe. And I think it's a combination of about 4 weeks of bombing and a very powerful blockade. The blockade is maybe more powerful than the bombing, if you want to know the truth.
Are you going to make the Arab countries pay a portion of all of the costs?
I think they'll make that. I think they're going to make that contribution. I think the Arab countries, because we've done a lot, I think they'd make a contribution toward the cost. Not been involved.
Without any conditions, if you make a deal?
We're going to see what happens, but I think we're very close to making a deal with Iran. You'll be the first to know, but I think we have a chance. And if that happens, oil goes way down, prices go way down, inflation goes way down, and you're going to have, much more importantly than even that, you won't have nuclear holocaust.
All right, Donald Trump, President of the United States, asked, will he keep the oil from Iran? And he responded with, well, we've got a very good relationship with Iran right now. Joining us, New York Times chief White House correspondent and MS Now contributor Peter Baker, Washington Post foreign affairs columnist and MS Now contributor David Ignatius, and MS Now contributor Inzamam Rashid, who is in Dubai for us. Peter, what exactly does he mean when he says we've got a great relationship with a country we're currently at war with?
Well, it means he thinks the negotiations are going well, or he wants people to think that the negotiations are going well. May not be the same thing. But he said something very interesting there, too. He said that Iran has agreed not to have a nuclear weapon. That's interesting. It's hard to it's not easy to accept, because I think that's something they have resisted for so long. It's hard to imagine they suddenly have given that up, given that their position just a few days ago was that they would simply have a moratorium for 3 or 5 years. So the question is whether, in fact, these negotiations are, reaching a place that can resolve that issue after all these years. I think there's reason to be suspicious or skeptical of that. It's been a long time on the table. Iran has been resistant to any kind of deal that ever gave up entirely its right to nuclear, energy. So we'll see where this leads. But at the moment, anyway, he wants people to think things are heading in the right direction, and particularly maybe he wants the markets to think that.
Yeah, David. So where are we on negotiations? What can we glean from the diplomatic efforts that are potentially happening behind the scenes?
So, two main points. Trump was just roaring with enthusiasm for the deal that he thinks it may be a few days away. I think Peter Baker's skepticism is appropriate. What I think he's talking about when he says Iran has agreed to no nuclear weapons, Iran, under Ayatollah Khamenei, always said it wasn't seeking nuclear weapons, but it insisted on the right to enrich uranium, which is a pathway to having a nuclear weapon. I think I'm understanding him saying that Iran has agreed not to insist on a right to enrich uranium permanently. Perhaps the solution they found is some kind of consortium for regional enrichment that would be shared. That was one of the ideas on the table before the war started. Second big thing, obviously, is the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. Somehow dealing with the war in Lebanon was seen by Iran as a precondition for resolving the dispute with the United States. This is good in terms of reinforcing the U.S.-Iran negotiations, but it's just good in terms of giving Lebanon finally a chance to reassert its sovereignty. Lebanon has strong leadership now, and President Aoun, they are insisting that they want their sovereignty back. They're ready to talk directly with Israel. It seems as if President Trump will host a meeting between Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Aoun of Lebanon soon at the White House. As I say, that's good for everybody. It means Israel doesn't have to continue its bombardment. It doesn't have to occupy southern Lebanon. And most important, it means Lebanon gets its country back after that country was hijacked by Hezbollah essentially 30 years ago.
Well, can you help me understand that right there? I mean, we're negotiating with the leaders, the U.S. is negotiating with the leaders of Lebanon, but Hezbollah is not, they're not the leaders of Lebanon, technically speaking, and they don't really answer to them. So how is making an agreement with the leaders of Lebanon eradicating Hezbollah?
So the president of Lebanon, former head of the Lebanese army, has had the guts, to put it frankly, to basically defy Hezbollah and go ahead and say he was ready for negotiations with Israel and a peace deal. Hezbollah has been so badly battered that he feels he has negotiating space now to do that. Will he be able to deliver? You have to be skeptical about that. The Lebanese army is multi-confessional. It has lots of Shiites who have sympathies for Hezbollah. But the fact that the Lebanese are now prepared to go forward with this, despite Hezbollah's reservations, I think is a very positive sign. And you heard President Trump say, yes, we will stand behind the Lebanese army as they try to take their country back.
All right, we want to listen in again. He's talking about NATO right now.
When they've had problems over the years, we were there. When we asked them to get involved on a very minor skirmish by comparison to what it could be, They weren't there, so I don't think they'd be there for a large skirmish, and therefore I think they've got themselves a problem.
Do your policies like no tax on tips, no tax on overtime show that the Democrat Party is no longer the party of the working class and the Republican Party under your leadership actually?
I love this question. This is the greatest guy. Look how handsome he is. What a great guy he is. Yes, the Democrats don't know what they're doing. They want to tax everybody out of business. They want men playing in women's sports. They don't want voter ID. They don't know what they're doing. We've had an unbelievable run, and the people getting their tax returns, and they're coming back, and they're ending up getting $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 more than they thought possible.
Do you think the Pope was being disrespectful? Back on the stage. The Pope. Do you think he was being disrespectful to you?
I don't think about it that way. The Pope has to understand that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And the Pope has to understand that you can't let a country kill 42,000 protesters, totally unarmed protesters. You can't do that. So the Pope, you know, I know his brother. His brother's MAGA all the way. You know that. Louis is a great guy. But the Pope has to understand you're not allowed to kill 42,000 protesters who are totally unarmed. And you cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon, or the entire world could be gone. And, you know, when the Pope realizes that, I think we'll have a different understanding.